welcome to the Footy Fever podcast. It's basically anything footy, and we're basically talking about reviews, previews, any news about clubs, tribunals, injuries, etc., and what's going on. So we got a big episode on our hands with the final series in full swing and a big round of footy that have just passed. So let's get started with Collingwood v Melbourne at the MCG on Thursday night. A sellout game. Collingwood, yes, won by 7 points. They showed dominance. It was a scrappy game, low scoring affair for most of the game. Full-time scores ended up being 60 to 53, with Maynard being learnt his fate and he'll be out. The Magpies, held on late in the game, with Melbourne coming back late, but they didn't end up choking. Against all odds, they end up winning after a scrappy and terrible end to the season that they had, but managed to come back in this September with interchanges, 68 interchanges made by Collingwood and 70 by Melbourne, with Angus Brayshaw spending 115 minutes on the bench due to his injury that he caught by Maynard, and that was the longest for Melbourne, and the longest player who spent on the bench for Collingwood was Cameron. So the match leaders, Bobby Hill kicked the most goals with 3 goals. Clayton Oliver had 31. Clayton Oliver had 31 disposals. Jake Bowie had 8 marks in total. Christian Brataka had 7 score involvements. Clayton Oliver had 10 tackles. Max Gawn had 22 contested possessions, and Clayton Oliver has 132 fantasy points from that game. Good game by both teams. Melbourne have a good chance against Carlton in the semi-final on Friday night. Free kicks, we'll have a look at that. Melbourne receiving the most free kicks, 20 to 14. And, big game. Now let's have a look at the Carlton-Sydney game on Friday night. Big game, with Carlton winning by 6 points by a goal in a late hold on. They held on late and get a good win. Probably Carlton's biggest win of the season. They had a massive lead at one stage. At half time, the scores were 47 to 18. Sydney ended up coming back within that quarter, kicking 5 goals and only letting Carlton kick 3. But Carlton made 73 interchanges and Sydney made 74, with Harry Mackay being injured, so spending the most time on the bench. And for Sydney, Amati had 31 minutes on the bench. With the leading match leaders, 2 goals to Golden, Errol Golden, I don't know how to say his name. Disposals, Sam Walsh, 29 disposals. 12 marks, McLean. Parker with 9 score involvements. Fogarty with 8 tackles. Walsh with 17 contested possessions, and McLean with 110 fantasy points. And we're going to have a look at free kicks, with Carlton being tied free kicks 19-19. So good game, with the full-time scores being 74-68. Now let's have a look at the GWS. The GWS versus St Kilda game, which, well, St Kilda just disappointed them fans to end the season on a disappointment, as GWS wins by 24. They just had control all game over the Saints. Now let's have a look at interchanges. St Kilda had 73 interchanges, while GW has 71, with Kaminthi with 57 minutes on the bench, and Cumming and Keefe with 14 minutes tired on the bench for GWS. And for the match leaders, Riccardi 3 goals, Steele 38 disposals, 9 marks for Lockie Ash, Josh Kelly with 10 score involvements, Gresham with 7 tackles, 22 contested possessions for Marshall, and Marshall gaining 138 fantasy points. And we'll have a look at free kicks, 17-16 St Kilda's way. So the final scores of that game were 77-101 GWS's way. Now we're going to have a look at the Brisbane Port game. Brisbane absolutely smashed Port Adelaide at the Gabba by 48 points, with Port being right in it at half time. They had a big task on them at 3/4 time, but managed to not hold on and not managed him to find his way back. But for interchanges, Brisbane made 73, Port made 66, Port Adelaide made a disaster in subbing Darcy Byrne-Jones off for Travis Boak, and then ended up having Dylan Williams come off injured. But for that game, Rayner got injured, which took him off the longest. But Darcy Byrne-Jones and Dylan Williams both 46 minutes off from Darcy Byrne-Jones being subbed off the same time Dylan Williams got injured. The match leaders, Joe Danaher with 5 goals, Zach Butters with 29 disposals, Wilmot with 8 marks, McCluggage 12 score involvements, Scott Lysett with 9 tackles, William Drew with 13 contested possessions, and Zach Butters with 124 fantasy points. And with free kicks, Port Adelaide had 24 free kicks to Brisbane's 21. The final scores were 123-75, Brisbane's way, obviously. So it was a big game. Two really close ones, with Melbourne losing to Collingwood by just 7 points, and then the game after just a point different of the game before was 6 points being the margin. Zach Butters with controversy over his dealing with Dane Zorko. Now, Collingwood advanced to the prelim finals, Brisbane advanced to the prelim finals, Melbourne and Carlton will play in a semi-final at the MCG, which should be a massive blockbuster, both at their home ground, and Port Adelaide and GWS at Adelaide Oval. GWS only playing at Adelaide Oval 3 weeks ago, so it should be good. I reckon Port Adelaide should just wear their their retro Guernsey for the game against GWS, because they won their game against GWS in that Guernsey. They should just do it again, but doesn't matter. But so the winner out of Melbourne and Carlton will play Brisbane at the Gabba, and the winner of Port and GWS against Collingwood at the G. That's going to be a blockbuster. Port and Collingwood at the G, if that happens. We had a close one last time they met. It was a full blockbuster. Imagine the two teams known for choking against each other in a prelim final. That will be the most sick thing. But GWS ready to come through and try taking that spot, to try taking it up to the ladder leader Pies. And Melbourne, I reckon Melbourne will, so this is my tips, I reckon Melbourne should beat Carlton with ease to get a prelim final spot against Brisbane at the Gabba, and I reckon, Port will get the Chockies against GWS to get a prelim final against Collingwood. Port, known for prelim final chokes, which what happened in 2001, 2 and 3, they received the nickname as the Chokers. 2004 they ended up coming out winning. Well, Port Adelaide have had that happen. 2021, known as the Chokers. 2022 they choked their season altogether. Is this Port's Adelaide's year? We're just going to have to wait and find out. But Sydney and St Kilda say goodbye in 2023. St Kilda and Sydney say goodbye to 2023. But with the record, we've received news. Record finals crowd 289,147, an all-time record for a finals crowd in week 1 of finals, which that is insane. And so big recall. We've got big games of footy ahead. Put your thoughts in the comments, as I am curious to see what everyone has to say and what they think about this round of finals, as it was a very, very big round of finals, and heartbreak for some teams and excitement for others. But we'll find out what goes on as time ticks on. And well, that's basically it for me. And I'll see you next time in the Footy Fever podcast.
Well, you put a lot in and you worked real